I mentioned the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, and it really is an honor to be here on such a historic day announcing the filing of, I think, one of the most important litigations of our time. As was mentioned, 64 years ago today, the Supreme Court issued its landmark decision in Brown versus the Board of Education. And the Brown decision really was a watershed moment for American history. It not only ended legally enforced segregation in the public schools, but it also overruled the separate but equal doctrine that segregated all aspects of American society. But 64 years later, the promise of Brown has not yet been realized here in New Jersey's public classrooms. New Jersey, as was mentioned, is one of the most racially diverse states in America. But even as it's one of the most racially diverse states in America, it is also among the most segregated states in this country. New Jersey is also one of the wealthiest states in America. The median net worth for New Jersey's white families is more than $270,000, the highest in America. But New Jersey also has some of the highest poverty rates in the country. By contrast, the median net worth for New Jersey's Latino and Black families is just $7,020 and $5,900, respectively. New Jersey's racial diversity and its racial segregation, in combination with its extreme wealth and punishing poverty, has created in New Jersey's public school classrooms some of the fiercest segregation by race, by ethnicity, and by poverty in this country. 64 years after Brown, New Jersey's public schools are as segregated by race and poverty as they were in 1954. It is because of this unacceptable reality that I am so proud and honored to stand with this mighty team of plaintiffs and advocates and a legal team that really is unlike any other. I'm especially proud to stand with Elise Spotty, with whom I worked for many years at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, one of the sharpest legal minds and finest litigators in this country. New Jersey needs this lawsuit. New Jersey cannot fulfill the promise of Brown or the promise that's owed to our students without this lawsuit. There's no amount of goodwill or well wishes or optimism that we can marshal that will accomplish the kind of systemic relief and fundamental transformation that is required. The task before us, therefore, will require all of us, each of us in this room and outside this room, the broader community, the courts, the legislature, the governor, to enact policies and build a system that will actively seek to finally integrate our public schools. As Justice Stein mentioned, as the complaint explains, New Jersey has been complicit in the creation and persistence of school segregation because it requires that students attend public schools in the municipalities in which they live. As a result, New Jersey operates a system that knowingly separates Black and Latino children by race and ethnicity and segregates white students in predominantly white districts. And the numbers here are staggering. We know that Black and Latino students, 63% of them attend schools that are more than 75% non-white. And in the aggregate, nearly half of all Black and Latino public school students attend schools that are more than 90% non-white. And my wife's experience as an educator in the Newark public school system for more than 20 years speaks to this unacceptable reality. In that time, in more than 2 decades, teaching thousands of students in 3 different schools in New Jersey's largest city, Newark, my wife, Charity, has never had a white student. In more than 2 decades, teaching in New Jersey's largest city, the city of Newark, more than 2 decades, in Newark, New Jersey's largest city, teaching thousands of kids in more than 3 schools. My wife, Charity, has never had a white student. And although my wife and her superb colleagues have empowered their young scholars to confront and overcome tremendous odds with a top-flight education that has produced powerful results, they have done so in spite of relentless structural racism, hyper-segregation and isolation, concentrated poverty, and insufficient resources. This is not the promise that was envisioned by Brown 64 years ago. We should also be clear, though, that school segregation is also harmful to New Jersey's white students, more than 40 of whom attend schools that are at least 75% white. Segregation deprives New Jersey's white students of the opportunity to learn from and among and to compete with Black and Latino children, thereby, among other things, instilling in them a false sense of superiority. And it undermines their development as people who are part of a broader, racially diverse state and nation. As the complaint in this case argues, and as we all in this room and outside this room know, school segregation is not required. In fact, integration is entirely possible. Indeed, it's necessary, and it's long overdue. 64 years after Brown, we have important promises to keep and still others to make to our students. And this case is about finally making good on those promises. Thank you.